Please silence your phones so that we can avoid any kind of disruption during the course of the meeting. Our invocation will be given by Pastor John Johnson of Desert Hope Presbyterian Church. Following that, I'm going to ask Supervisor Miller to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Those that are wishing to join, please stand.
Good morning. It is a privilege again to be standing before you to call upon the blessings of our Lord for those you are serving and those of you who serve. Let us pray. O Lord, in a particular time of distrust and division among the people of this great nation and of communities even such as Pinal County, the work of the people must still go on. And so we pray for servant hearts and minds to be at work and those who are called to be supervisors, that whether each of them acknowledge you or not, they might give full dedication to serving the people as true fiduciaries, mindful not of their own interests, but of those your people. And we pray for acceptance of trust among those who are served, that they recognize that the decisions of leaders are not always easy, not always at no cost, not always fully understood by those not entrusted with the responsibility of making them. But realizing that we are community, that the goal of having us live in peace and harmony in community is the reason you gave the laws you gave more than 3,000 years ago. I offer prayers for this entire community, those served, and especially today to those serving as supervisors. In the name of the one I call Lord and Savior, the ultimate servant, Jesus. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we now begin the Pinal County Board of Supervisors regular meeting, June 5th, 2024. Before we get into call to the public, we're going to do an audible. We're going to take item number 10 first. We have a lot of visitors here, and rather than cause them to have to sit through everything else that we go through, we wanted to move it up. So we're going to take item number 10 at this moment. Do we have Brent's here? Mr. Billingsley.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, wow, that's quite an audible. but we intend to throw the Hail Mary and score a touchdown, right?
Hopefully.
This particular item's been before the board previously. It has to do with a special use permit for a cellular tower. After the staff reports were filed with the clerk for this meeting, we received a memo that I believe is in front of each of you today, requesting withdrawal of application SUP 02823. Did you guys get a copy of that? You've seen that? So essentially there's three different ways that action could be taken. You could accept this letter of withdrawal, then that'll be withdrawn from our records, and another case to be filed at another time. 2, you could approve the SUP, or 3, you could deny the SUP. Are there any questions?
No. Anybody? Okay, it seems that there's none. Do we have a motion going forward then?
Mr. Chairman, I move to deny the SUP.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Go ahead, Supervisor Miller. Did you have something?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Excuse me? If you are going to go that route, I would ask that we could have an executive session so that we could brief you on the legal nuances of that action.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move into exec session.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to take a few minutes in executive session. Motion to deny.
Chairman,
Yes.
if we may, if we can adjourn the executive session.
Oh, thank you. That's why you're here. Can we adjourn executive
So
session?
moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're out. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. I called for a vote. There were 3 ayes, but I didn't finish the vote, the process, so, and then that's when we in the executive session. So, do we have any in opposition against the denial?
Aye. And can I explain my vote?
Yes, please.
I think that we should honor the withdrawal by the applicant. And the second part is these findings have not been read into the record that would be required for a denial vote. So I just think that the withdrawal is a much cleaner method to handle this item.
Okay. Supervisor Surdy, what was your vote? I'm sorry.
I was yes for the denial.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
But I do want the public to know why
Okay,
we do
so,
in fact do it. So
okay, but we still, our understanding is we still need to clean this up. Because just denying, go ahead.
That is correct. You still have not completed your vote. You have 4 voting. Not sure that we have heard anything from the chair yet as to what his vote would be. So you would need to, account for all members on the board.
And my vote was yes to deny. But we need to clean it up with this document that Supervisor Miller's bringing out. Okay.
So, if I may,
So-
would
So,
you call the roll? Would you have the clerk call the roll?
yes.
Just for absolute clarity.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Chairman, just to further clarify, the current motion on the floor is for disapproval. That motion was made by Supervisor Kavanaugh and seconded by Supervisor McClure. Roll call vote, Supervisor Kavanaugh?
Aye for the denial.
For denial. Vice Chairman McClure?
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
Nay?
Supervisor Surdy?
aye.
And Chairman?
Aye.
That motion passes for disapproval 4-1.
Okay. Now, in order that we get this document included in the motion, is there a motion? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move to reconsider this item.
Second?
We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we're going to reconsider this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny item 10, and included in that will be a statement we'll read into the record. Denying SUP 028-23. Would it be appropriate for me to read this into the record at this time?
If you, I believe so.
Mr. Chairman, and if we could also make this, what you are reading, part of the record, the actual document itself.
Okay. So we'll make this document part of the record. This is entitled Written Record of the Pinal County Board of Supervisors denying SUP-028-23 with respect to SUP-028-23, the SUP application. The Pinal County Board of Supervisors, the board, makes the following findings in recognition of 47 U.S.C. 332 C7B Roman 3, which provides that any decision by a state or local government or instrumentality thereof to deny a request to place, construct, or modify personal wireless service facilities shall be in writing and supported by substantial evidence contained in a written record. Number 1, adverse health concerns are not considered. In rendering its decision, the board has specifically excluded from its consideration or reasoning for denial of the SUP application any and all comments, statements, submissions, and any other materials or information regarding any potential adverse health conditions, concerns, or effects over radio frequency RF emissions, recognizing that no state or local government or instrumentality thereof may regulate the placement, construction, and modification of personal wireless service facilities on the basis of the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that such facilities comply with the Commission's regulations concerning such emissions. Number 2, public protest aesthetics. The board finds that SUP application was met with tremendous non-health concern-related public opposition with respect to the specific adverse aesthetic and visual impacts of the proposed wireless communications facility, the tower, on nearby property. For example, in addition to the public opposition expressed vocally during the public hearing in this matter, the board received a memorandum in opposition filed on behalf of 57 individuals, the memorandum, which includes approximately 100 opposition letters relating to aesthetic concerns. The board further finds that the concerns raised are from property owners who have indicated in the first-person perspective and compelling detail how they will be personally, directly, and adversely affected due to the negative aesthetic visual impact of the tower if the SUP application is granted, and do not merely evince an opposition to wireless communications facilities in general, but are grounded in the specifics of this case. Number 3, public protest property values. The board finds that the SUP application was met with tremendous non-health concern-related public opposition with respect to the specific adverse impacts on nearby property values. The board further finds that such concerns were raised by property owners who have indicated they will be personally, directly, and adversely affected by a decrease in property values if the SUP application is granted. Said concerns are supplemented and supported by statements and letters set forth in the memorandum from real estate professionals in the local area and are therefore grounded in the specifics of this case and are not generalized concern over potential negative effects on property values. Number 4, lack of hard data, insufficient evidence to establish a need for the proposed tower at the proposed location. The board finds that the applicant for the SUP application has failed to present meaningful, hard data and probative evidence to remotely establish a need for the proposed tower at the proposed location, as opposed to possible less intrusive viable alternative facilities or locations, that the tower must be built to its proposed height or otherwise that approving the SUP application would be the only feasible means to fill a significant gap in coverage or remedy a capacity deficiency, and that there are no other potential solutions to do so. For example, although the SUP application includes purported coverage maps and a letter from T-Mobile stating that they are seeking to install the tower for the purpose of improving T-Mobile's coverage and expanding its network capacity to meet customer demand throughout Pinal County, the same are inherently void of probative value and not supported by any actual hard data, such as denial of service records or drive test data. The board further finds, based on the non-health concern-related testimony and evidence presented by the public and lack of meaningful data and probative evidence from the applicant to the contrary, the applicant has failed to show that a denial of the SUP application would materially inhibit the provision of new or additional telecommunications services or improve existing services in the area. And item 5, granting the SUP application is not consistent with local zoning requirements. Without limiting any of the foregoing, and in addition thereto, the board finds that granting the SUP application is not consistent with the county's zoning requirements, which expressly consider the regulation of wireless communications facilities to protect the integrity, character, and identity of neighborhoods and to minimize the adverse visual effects of towers through the careful design, siting, and screening. The board further finds that granting the SUP application would have an inordinately negative impact on nearby properties and substantially change or materially affect the surrounding areas.
Okay.
That's this in its entirety.
Okay, that's the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose? It's unanimous. So now we're going to go back to public comment. Thank you for allowing us to do that. Okay, call to the public. Consideration and discussion of comments from the public. Those wishing to address the Pinal County Board of Supervisors may do so. Need not request permission in advance. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing the staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. So I would ask that the public, as they come forward, please give your name, full name, and kind of a brief description where you live. And then in addition to that, just be courteous when you come forward and address the board. We have our rules of engagement. Oh, we do? Where are they? And so we ask that you follow those rules as you come forward, okay? So my first person that has asked for some time is Arlen Trout.
Yeah, I've provided copies for the board. Good morning, board members. I am Arlen Trout from Gold Canyon, Arizona. The American Civil Liberties Union just sued Sheriff Mark Lamb and Pinal County for violating Arizona's transparency laws. This should remind us of the Stan Griffiths versus Pinal County case of the extravagant illegal expenditure of public funds that sent him to prison in 2007. My family was bullied into Superior Court that same year because Pinal County attorneys would not enforce our laws against trespassing, harassment, and property damage by local land developers. After a bankrupting 4-year legal battle, Judge William O'Neill finally signed a final ruling in 2011. 2021, the Trout family was again physically forced into another court battle with Judge Christopher O'Neill because Sheriff Mark Lamb and County Attorney Kent Volkman refused to enforce personal protective orders and the 2011 ruling against these local land developers. Last September, I reported Sheriff Lamb and Kent Volkner to Chairman Jeff Surdy. I provided evidence of the danger and damage their enforcement refusals had caused and asked for assistance. I had also formally requested and received public records, but the names and signatures of officials and land developers were blocked out. Instead of assistance, Pinal County officials lawyered up with public funds and now refuse to communicate with me. I'm not a party to this Trout versus Russell lawsuit. I have no attorney and have not filed claims against Pinal County. I am reporting witness and victim, requesting transparency and assistance. I warned the board there was a trial on March 29th and a ruling on May 1st. Threats and refusal to abide by court orders are ongoing with no legal end to this financial bleeding game in sight. These lawsuits in Pinal County Superior Court document failures to fairly apply and enforce our criminal laws. Will this wave of lawsuits against Pinal County officials be paid for with public funds? I'm requesting a response from Jeff Surdy, and I believe I'm entitled to one by Arizona Revised Statute 11-251, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What's that? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. George Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, George Ellison, Gold Canyon. The 1962 Mets were an incredibly bad team, and during a play of incredible ineptitude, their manager, Casey Stengel, said, "Can't anybody here play this game?" That's my question to the Republican Party at all levels of government. President Trump, as you know, has been indicted in at least 3 different cases. Civil suits have been filed against him. It's the first time in American history it's ever happened. And it's not going to stop. Now, the judge in the New York case, which, by the way, is 86% Democrat, the judge himself is a contributor to Obama and to Biden. His daughter has raised millions to put Trump in jail. He's going to sentence President Trump 4 days before the nominating convention. And so he's either going to get jail time or House monitors. Now, President Trump's going to have to defy that. And the only way he's going to do that is red governors of Republican states, are going to have to refuse extradition requests. Then he can go to those states and campaign. We have to do something. And instead of manufacturing fake cases against Republicans, we have to prosecute real crimes of Democrats. And let's start in the state with the Democrat Attorney General Chrissy Mays, landslide Chrissy. She won by, 280 votes a couple days or so after the election. Have you ever noticed in any of these elections where the votes come in later? Have Republicans ever won any of them? No. It's always the Democrats. Anyway, she has abused process. She's using the legal system to prosecute alternate electors. That's not illegal. That's criminalizing political differences. So my suggestion to Pinal County is either use the county attorney's office directly or hire outside counsel like myself or someone else of similar skills and convene a grand jury to indict Chrissy Mays for abuse of process. She's guilty of it. She's abused the legal process. And then when President Trump wins, what we should do, he'll appoint a U.S. attorney for Arizona, and that U.S. attorney should indict Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, former FBI Director James Comey, and a slew of others for the crimes that they have committed. This is not going to end with kisses and roses. They have turned this into a banana republic. You either die or you fight back. And I'm not suggesting fighting back physically, nor am I suggesting doing anything illegal or manufacturing crimes or civil suits. But it's time to fight back. Otherwise, we die as a party and the country dies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. The next one that I have is Nancy Hart.
Chairman Surdy, members of the board, and all in attendance today, my name is Nancy Hartle, and my address is 6016 West Bushwood Way in Florence. I'm here today simply to make a statement regarding continued inappropriate assault on our early voting method and election systems. Despite multiple investigations and lawsuits showing no significant fraud, the rhetoric continues about our supposed flawed voting machines, nefarious practices, and a push toward 100% hand counting of votes. This is even a platform of some of the 2024 GOP candidates. The widespread use of the term, quote, voting integrity, end quote, is a cover-up for attempts to make voting less accessible to certain groups of people. Regarding my background, I worked as a Pinal County early voting temp from the 2022 election through the 2024 presidential preference election. I'm a retired women's health nurse practitioner. I retired as a major after 20 years of honorable service in the United States Air Force. I'm presently a candidate for the the Arizona House of Representatives, LD7. My website is nancy.hartle for ld7.com if you're interested. I feel that it is critical that as public servants, we all speak cautiously about our election system. After much discussion of the illegality of 100% hand count at the Board of Supervisors meeting 11/15/23, a board member remarked, quote, "Desire to cheat and manipulate has just come to light recently," end quote. That was at 1 hour, 10 minutes, 53 seconds if you want to check it out. If that's the case, you and I would likely disagree as to who is truly trying to cheat. Despite clear clarification that our voting machines are not connected to the internet and proof that the documentary showing ballot stuffing by quote mules, end quote, was fake, it's been proven fake, people still can't let go of those beliefs. My experience in the early voting office was one of constant checks and balances, nonpartisan dedicated workers, excellent training, and outstanding leadership by supervisors like Sherry DePrimo, Donna Diaz, and Recorder Dana Lewis. The fact is, machines are more efficient and effective than humans with repetitive tasks. The truly best system utilizes both machines and humans, like our present system. The Dropbox and mail-in system has been used effectively for more than 80%, 4 years by 80% of the Arizona citizens. It did not suddenly become flawed just because a Republican president couldn't accept that he lost a re-election. If so, how about the down-ballot GOP candidates who did win? In contrast to elections of many years ago, where there might have been 3 names on a ballot, the 2024 election will likely be up to 3 pages both sides. To suggest doing a 100% hand count with accurate results ready by end of election day is completely ridiculous. A recent trial hand count using only one batch of 50 ballots confirmed that notion. Finally, let us all be careful about presenting facts, not conspiracies, and let's protect our 2024 election workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Holt? Do we have any others? That's the last card I have. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to come forward? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I gave one to the clerk, so I don't know if oh, okay. Yeah. Hi, my name is Steve Zobro. With Psalm 91, I live in Gilbert, Arizona. And I'm here basically in regards to the TIMP plan. I think it's consent number consent number Y, item Y. Boland Road project on page 93. Basically just here, just to thank everybody. First of all, I'll start with Supervisor Kavanaugh. We went to his office in June of last year, met him and Joshua. They helped us out immensely. And then they guided us to Chris Kavanaugh. Excuse me, not Chris Kavanaugh. They guided us to Chris Wanamaker. And then Chris, we spent about an hour in Pinal County with Chris as far as how do we do this? How do we get the road taken care of? What do we need to do? And Chris gave us some great ideas. And then eventually it got into the plan. And we worked with Tara Hartman. And Tara was fantastic, sending emails back and forth to me, always responding. As a matter of fact, the last response I got from Tara was in regards to asking how many people wanted to say yes about this project, and we had a total of 6, Natasha. So could I put that into the records right here? Okay. And when I say we, Bill Blanchard, Bill, are you here? Bill's here. Bill, can you stand up, Bill? And I think Debbie Chitwood. Debbie owns some land also in that area. Debbie, there's Debbie. Okay. And so I used to own some land in that area also, but mostly just to thank everybody. I mean, it was such a blessing to go through that process. It's actually in page 93, so we're hoping that we get a yes vote. And I just want to thank everybody and thank Pinal County, and we appreciate it, man. God bless y'all.
Thank you. Wait. Is there any others that would like to come forward? Mr. Reveles.
Roberto Reveles, resident of Gold Canyon. In the interest of transparency, I'm a former president of American Civil Liberties Union of Arizona. I remain an active member of the ACLU. Mr. Chairman, this past week, 12 fellow Americans helped restore faith in the power of truth, transparency, and accountability. The jurors who found the former president guilty on all 34 felony counts signaled the resurgence of truth and the beginning of the end of the big lie. It brought into focus the answer to who is destroying our country, a question that has been raised here in this room when our own Sheriff Lamb accused me and others of destroying our nation. This week, that same sheriff admitted on television that he has no evidence backing up his promotion of the big lie during the past 3 years. No, I and other colleagues did not question the integrity of our elections without evidence. No, we did not substitute lies for the truth. No, we did not doubt our court system over their court decisions. Let's remember, it is MAGA Republicans who have been pushing conspiracies, fake cyber ninja audits, filing endless and ongoing lawsuits without evidence that have been rejected universally by all of our courts. The judicial process continues to move slowly, but it is moving. Arizona's fraudulent presidential electors have yet to face judicial trial. Now, following conviction of the former president, MAGA Republicans are pushing to prevent accountability for the big lie. Their big hope is to rev up their anti-immigrant base by placing on the ballot a most debased anti-immigrant, anti-humanitarian measure, hoping to take away focus from the criminal leader of the previously grand old party. But history will repeat itself when the so-called Border Security Act is found to be yet another unconstitutional racial profiling measure, a last gasp. And we're left to deal with the debris left in place by proponents of the big lie. I urge principled Republicans and independents, don't let them steal your integrity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to suspend the rules that I may, if it's appropriate, respond to Mr. Revelis's statement. Would that be appropriate?
No, it would not be.
No, the law doesn't allow that.
There's not a public comment. If we want to agendize something for a future meeting, we could do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Is there any others? Oh, Supervisor Surtee, you were called out during that. Do you want to, is there a response?
So, yeah, all of the supervisors, we all have life experiences in areas where we are experts or have experience in. And the last paragraph of this handout we were given, these lawsuits in Pinal County Superior Court, failures to fairly apply and enforce, will this wave of lawsuits against Pinal County officials be paid? When we're talking wave of lawsuits, then I didn't go to law school for 6 to 8 years. I have no law degree. I would need to defer this to our legal team. And I'm pretty sure that the board has asked that we do address Mr. Trout's grievances. And are we preparing something to make an official statement on this, or is it being remanded to outside counseling?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Surtee, the Trout matter was a conflict for our office. It was conflicted over to Maricopa County, and they have an assigned attorney that is representing and working with your Planning and Development Department, I believe.
Okay.
And so if it's conflicted out, does that also mean that we are as well, and we would defer to have them represent us rather than have me address a wave of lawsuits?
They are representing the board as a whole, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that part of what we're going to be discussing in our upcoming meeting?
I'm not sure I understand what meeting you're referring to, Supervisor.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to? Oh, I've already done that. We're going to close the public. I didn't see anybody else stand up. Okay. So we'll close the public hearing at this time. We'll go to item number 2, County Manager's Report.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of pictures for show and tell here.
Your new puppy?
Yeah, my new puppy. That one's coming in a future meeting. First, I'd like to commend and thank, here on our left is our current Chief Justice, Robert Brutinel. In the middle there is our presiding judge, Judge Giorgini. And then on our right is the current Vice Chief Justice, Ann Timmer. And Justice Brutinel is going to be passing her the baton here in, I think, a couple of weeks. And so she'll be our Chief Justice. They have made their way around the state, visiting all 15 counties, and just understanding the uniqueness of the justice system needs throughout the state and the different communities, especially rural communities. And then I want to thank Presiding Judge Giorgini, because I don't know if all the other counties did this, but he purposefully invited and created different small working groups to talk with the justices, and invited me as a county manager into those meetings. And so we met with the public defense and the county attorney, the chief justices, and I'd just like to talk a little bit about some of the nuggets and themes of that conversation. I think one of them that really stuck out in my mind was the collaboration that we in the county do. We have a criminal justice coordinating committee that meets at least every quarter. That started, if you remember, back with Greg Stanley on talking about what can we do with the rise in our average daily population in our jails. It really developed into something where all of the stakeholders in the system are able to understand what each other are doing and what effect it has on each other, which resulted in a lot of efficiencies for our county over the past 6-7 years. One of the things I really appreciated about Justice Timmer and a statement that she made, and something we should always be mindful of, is that she said, although we're separate branches of government, we don't function in silos. And so I think psychologically sometimes, people hear this separate word and then we say, okay, well, you do your business, we'll do our business. But in reality, we know that we function together effectively as a system. And whatever community need we're trying to meet, all of us, all branches of government work together to meet those needs. So I really appreciated that about her. One of her strategic priorities for her administration is going to be improving legal services access to communities, especially rural communities. And so, and we know that's going to take all the stakeholders in the system to accomplish that. One of the things she noted was that Arizona is near the bottom in lawyers per capita in the country. I think maybe last year we're around 43. We only have 2 universities that have law schools that are producing these degrees. And so I know that the justices, as well as other stakeholders in the systems, are working with the universities to ensure that they're training and developing functional attorneys, those that can litigate and that can practice, and especially focusing on how do we do that better for public attorneys and attorneys in rural areas. One of the other things that was mentioned was the importance and the movement to make sure that adult probation and juvenile probation are appropriately funded, and the positive effect that has in our communities, and educating what those services actually are so that the public understands how that works. So again, just want to thank those for the visit, for the productive conversation and team spirit on all of this. And thank you again to Presiding Judge Giorgini for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Leo.
Chairman.
Any questions of Leo?
I think this is information only, so we can't ask questions. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Where are you at? You're supposed to get that to me.
Dude, just
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is Supervisors' Districts updates. We'll start with Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder that we have on June 8th at 5:15 p.m. Our town hall. You can go to tinyurl.com/Coolidge Town Hall to make a reservation. And the same is true of Maricopa, June 29th, 5:15, tinyurl.com/Maricopa Town Hall.
Okay. Supervisor McClure.
Well, I've been out of town playing with grandkids, getting sick, so I don't have much going on. But I will be tomorrow at Career Exploration Youth CSI event hosted by County Attorney Volkmer at Post and Butte High School. Get to talk to 80 kids that are going through that program about how you got where you are and what the heck do you do.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Supervisor Miller.
Nothing to report today. Thank you.
Supervisor Surdy.
So I don't want to sound redundant, but I've been mentioning fire season is coming, and fire season is now here. All of the land management agencies have now put in their restrictions. It's going to be 110 today, 114 tomorrow. So no more fires, no more shooting in the desert. We got to be really careful till it rains and cools everything down. So, and if you watch the news, you're seeing there's fires popping up all over. Had a very informational meeting yesterday, and one of the things I asked is about, we're all supposed to not talk on our cell phones on the in the vehicles, so you're supposed to pull off, and even that can be dangerous with your heat under your vehicle. But the main thing that causes fires up 87, et cetera, is vehicles pulling trailers. And if you've ever followed one at night and you see the sparks coming from the chains hanging down and tires, so be very careful when you're even driving along brushy roads.
Thank you, Supervisor Surtee. As far as District, which one am I, 2? District 2, we had an event that we put together with our Sheriff's Department and also with our County Attorney's Office, and we've got a video showing of that event out in Santan Valley. Don't make fun of me.
Hey everybody, we're right here at the Home Depot in Santan Valley. What we're doing is we have an Adopt a Bike program. Many of our local residents have donated these bikes, and then with the help of our local Santan Bikes, getting them in safe conditions for the people that are adopting them. We are out here today doing a bicycle rodeo. Part of all of this venue is a bike rodeo that our Sheriff's Department is putting on with safety. They've got cones set up that our kids are able to run through the course with stop signs and everything to teach them where to stop, what the stop sign looks like. The law enforcement aspect is a huge aspect of this. Being able to understand what a stop sign is, when to look left, when to look right, when to look left again at the stop sign. We've got over a couple dozen vendors.
The smiles on these kids, I mean, I think we all can remember being that age and getting a bike and the fun that you're going to have riding with your neighborhood friends and going to the Circle K on the corner, getting a Slurpee with your siblings. There's nothing better. That's awesome to see.
The biggest thing with some of these vendors, they receive so much from the community itself. This is their opportunity to give back. One of the things that Home Depot did was they brought their kids program out here. They have 4 or 5 kits that these kids are able to choose from and decide which one they want to put together, so that these kids can actually have hands-on experience putting things together and then painting them. There's nothing greater than a motorcycle, watching some of these kids light up, and they're just following them through, and they love it.
We hope we're a staple here. We've made it known. We definitely want to do this. We want to make it bigger and better each and every year.
We're hoping that more of our community gets involved as far as bike donations, because the key and the point here is if the bike is not being used, let's get it in a condition to where it can be used. Somebody around, every kid needs a bike, and that's really what we're after, is to provide that opportunity for them.
It's not just the camera that makes me look big. I am big, so I apologize.
I didn't see you riding through the cones, only around them.
But I ran through the cones.
Okay.
You've seen that, right?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was the first truly interesting and entertaining video I've seen yet.
We can't make fun of ourselves. Who can we make fun of, right? Okay, item number 4, discussion updates regarding the 2024 state and federal legislative session, including bills, budget proposals, and so on and so forth. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think everybody knows that our legislature is only meeting once a week right now. Not a lot of activity. going on other than I'm going to tell you something here about this. All the water bills were put into one massive bill and have been discussed and passed back and forth between both houses, the Senate and the House, with little movement. But there was a big meeting yesterday where they brought everything together, and the consensus was that they will pass this water bill as long as they extract Pinal County out of what was Senate Bill 1172. So I'm not really sure where all the political pressure is coming from, but I'll just use my standards. Here we are, the redheaded stepchild. We are the epicenter of a water crisis. We have legislation pending, but now we're going to be extracted from that legislation for some type of selfish reasons. And I'm not really sure. I've been on the phone since last night, all morning. I have a handful of other calls to legislators. But I would ask anybody in this room that knows a legislator, either party, to vote no on passing this legislation, this omnibus bill, because if we're going to be extracted from it, everybody should be removed from it. I've preached and preached for a long time about trying to come up with solutions for water in Arizona, and I think all ships, rising tides lift all ships, but for some reason they're going to leave us behind, and I'm not really sure why. But so I would ask that you contact legislators and make sure that they do not leave Pinal County behind in this legislation going forward. On the federal level, we haven't had a lot of discussion about the SCID, or the San Carlos Irrigation District, and their electrical supply. We have some projects that have come to a screeching halt because they can't move forward with their infrastructure isn't allowing them to move forward to supply to new projects that have actually gone into the ground. So I would ask that our federal lobbyists and Pinal County get involved in what we're going to do going forward with SCID. So, Mr. Leo, if you don't mind putting that on the top of your list of things to do. So, got some real issues there. And I've been approached by congressperson to look into this and how we can help. And I don't know how we can help, but let's start the conversation. So, unless you have any questions, I will leave it at that for now.
Okay, Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Supervisor Miller, could you be more specific about the harm to Pinal County as a result of this bill? What specifically are we being left out of, and how does it harm us?
It ties to, the legislation was 1172, and when they've thrown all this into one bucket, you don't see it as that, but it specifically was, 1172 was the Ag to Urban bill, and was the Ag to Urban bill that I lobbied and got amended to allow for replenishment to be part of that legislation. In effect, that if a developer uses the Ag to Urban bill to move forward with a project, that replenishment will be part of that project. And for whatever reason, that will be, if it passes, as it's going to be amended. It has not been amended yet, but the amendment will be to remove Pinal County. So that's really what we need to block. It will allow the rest of the state to use 1172, but not Pinal County. So, and that's, I'm not, there's a lot of reasons. It's political reasons. It's what it is. Okay. I hope that explained you. I hope that answers your question.
It clears it up. I was reading it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Miller. Appreciate your service that you're giving us on the CSA board.
Okay.
Item number 5, discussion or update of internal audit. I've got Eric. I don't see Matt. So, Eric, how you doing? Good.
Jared's going to speak for us.
Okay. Good.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Thank you for having us to provide an update on interim audit plan and the silent whistle. I'm Jarrett Judson. This is Eric Groen. Just as we go through actively doing our audits, I want to come up here regularly to give you an update on what's been happening. So in one of the consent items, you should have seen that we just wrapped up a review over the merit rule recruitment. And so that's what we've been working on. And then currently, we're working with the county on a follow-up to community development. So in 2022, there was a third party that was hired to do a review over the community development and public works area. And there were action plans and observations that came out of that. But we thought as independent party that it would be good for us to go in and see what the progress has been on that. So we're currently working with the county. And then the next time we come around, probably July or August, we'll have an update on how those action plans look right now.
Okay.
And then we're also in discussions with the county IT department. There's discussions about potentially changing ERP systems for the county. So talking with them about where we could potentially assist. We do have experts in ERP implementation and selection process. So really working with county management to determine where might it best be that we can provide assistance. Additionally, it's not on here, and I think you guys are all aware that our plan is always agile. So as soon as there's emerging risks or evolving risks, we're willing to change our plan based on what would be best benefit to the county. One additional thing that the IT department had mentioned is they have some work going on with payroll and ADP, and that they could use some assistance there. So we actually have a call tomorrow with them to talk about where we could potentially assist with that as well. The elections third-party review that I believe was done in 2022, that was on our plan, but with the other initiatives that have been going on with the county, we were asked to postpone that until those initiatives get through, and then we can do follow-up at that point in time. Data governance is really no longer applicable if there's a new ERP system that's implemented. So we're going to tackle the ERP thing first because the data itself will not be necessary if a new system is implemented. So that has been postponed. And then in next year, we plan to look at constituent relations and service delivery model. And really, we haven't defined the scope in full there, but what we're thinking is looking around at what are the services that are provided throughout the county and how easy are those services to access from the constituents. And then capital projects review. As there's constantly capital projects happening throughout the county, we've got a team of specialists that used to be general contractors. So they'll go in and look at what the project plan looks like, how resources are allocated, and just the overall monitoring of capital projects. And then we'll also do a mid-cycle risk assessment update. So this will be formalized where we will connect back with all of you guys as well as county management to see if this plan is still good or are there other evolving, emerging risks that should be considered and potentially replacing things within the audit plan. And then 2026, countywide succession planning, looking at that, fleet service, and then going through our full risk assessment. But also each year we do follow-up on any open audit management action plans. Currently, I do not believe there are any open ones that we'll be following up on this year. I believe we've closed everything out. But as we have open action items, we do follow up on those. Any questions on the plan?
I do.
Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you've been given instructions to postpone the follow-up review, the election's third-party follow-up. How did you receive that instruction?
We were asking about, and I don't remember the individual that had done the third-party review on that, but we were asking about that and where the status was on certain items, and they said they were in the process of remediating some of those action items, so it was not a good time to come in because they knew certain things had not been 100% formalized yet.
Okay, and that was somebody in county management or at the elections office? Who was that?
We were working with county management.
Okay, so who in county management said that?
Our direct contact is through Mary Ellen Shepard.
Okay, and so so you have information you've received thus far supporting the elections third-party follow-up. You've received documents.
We have not received anything from the county. We just received that report from that third party.
Okay. The report was from David Nelson. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I believe so.
That was the original one. Okay. And, all right, so we'll deal with our staff and maybe put that back on the front burner because we've screwed up a couple elections by not having proper procedures in place. And the presidential preference election, we had 40% errors in the returns, and we cannot put off perfecting our elections department. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kavanaugh. Okay. Then the next item we have is silent whistle update. I believe you're all sorry.
What's that?
That's the next item on the agenda. You have not called for that item yet.
Yeah, so hold on. Okay. Is there any other questions from anybody? Okay. Now you can go forward. So that does conclude item number 5. Let's move on to item number 6.
Okay, and on the silent whistle, I believe you're all aware that the county does have a silent whistle where people can go in and express concerns, and we monitor that to see if there's anything that's in there that potentially we should consider for our internal audit plan, or potentially just as an independent investigation into things. It has been extremely slow the last year or so. There's only 3 items that have been in there. We consider all those items non-actionable from an internal audit perspective. One of the items was around online identity theft, which had nothing to do with the county or county website or anything like that. Another item was a domestic dispute that has nothing to do with internal audit. And then a third item was a potential fake subpoena that somebody was contacted with, and I believe county management passed that along to the sheriff's office just so that they were aware of it and could potentially use it as part of training. So that is everything that's came in the last 11 months, and I looked this morning and there's nothing from June yet.
So, Mr. Chair, so silence on the silent whistle is a good thing, right?
Yes.
Well, I take a different tack. I don't think employees are confident that they can.
I recognize you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Since we're following rules.
Okay. The problem is I think employees are not confident that, number one, their issue would be addressed, or number 2, the routing. Have you considered or have you done elsewhere an employee survey to determine if they are confident in that system, and would that be appropriate?
We have not, I believe, and Eric, remind me if I'm wrong here, but I believe as part of our risk assessment, which is held at, I believe as directors and above, there's, I think, 80 to 100 people that we survey every time we do our risk assessment. And I believe there's a question on there about are they aware of the silent whistle, and are they confident that they can report without having retaliation.
Yeah, I can't imagine them not doing something like that, to be honest with you. And so I would like to see, because, I mean, we can sit here and assume all of that, but unless our staff tells us, no, we don't feel confident with this, yes, we feel confident with this. You know, some of us may have had 1 or 2 people come to him and say, I'm not confident with it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, what is most of our employees telling us? And I think that would be something that would be important in your assessment. If they're content with what we've got, or do we need to make some changes?
Okay.
I think that's more the issue than anything. And you know, otherwise we've got some really good, happy employees. We've given away a lot of awards for people that have been here for 20 plus years. So, okay, anything else?
We're good here.
You're done?
We are done here.
Okay. All right. Hey, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 7, Purchasing Division Report.
Good morning, Chairman Goodman, members of the board. I'm Angie Woods, Director of the Office of Budget and Finance, and I have the pleasure of presenting today's Purchasing Division Report. The board is requested to approve 2 contract awards. First, RFP 245029 for paralegal services. Second, RFP 245129 for social worker services. The board's requested to approve 6 contract amendments, all exercising optional extension periods. Those contracts are RFP 192425 for printing and mailing evaluation notices, RFP 220226 for specialty legal services, ROQ 225027 for housing rehabilitation and demolition pre-qualified, RFP 241029 for printing and mailing an email notification of property tax documents, ROQ 233828 for JOC civil construction services, and ROQ 234128 JOC asphalt maintenance and repair services. Additionally, the board is requested to approve a change order for PO number 251142 with Low Mountain Construction. The board is requested to approve a purchase request utilizing a competition impracticable procurement method for a supplier, Massive Blue Incorporated, in the amount of $500,000. Lastly, the board is here notified of cooperative purchases made with PO number 251708 for supplier Merrick, Sharp, and Dome Corporation, PO number 251665 with Midway Chevrolet, PO number 251702 with CDW Government, and lastly, PO number 251746 with CDW Government. Are there any questions? There's detailed information in the report posted in the agenda.
Okay. Any questions, anybody? Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps Mr. Volkmer can answer this question. We have a number of these law firms, particularly Coppersmith Brockelman, and they deal with, I think, primarily elections-related issues. Is that accurate? I can't see Kento. Oh.
Sorry, let me turn this on. I can address that. They actually have qualified for several areas: appellate practice, commercial transactions, let's see, contractual liability, elections is one of them, yes. Government practice, open meetings, public records, some general litigation, healthcare, insurance contracts, and labor law, and other. We have a whole list of these outside counsels that sign up for on-call services should we need to have them for a specialized area that we don't have in-house.
Well, I've been to the Coppersmith Brockelman Law Office, and they are very left-leaning for sure. In fact, one of the attorneys had a roll of toilet paper, a dispenser attached to the wall with a picture of President Trump on every sheet. And so if we're having Coppersmith deal with elections issues, I wondered if there was someone else who also deals with elections issues that we could use. And the second thing is Pierce Coleman. I would like to remove Pierce Coleman from approval at this time. I believe Mr. Coleman may have engaged in something that would be a conflict. And so I would like to remove both Coppersmith Brockelman and Pierce Coleman at this time, and perhaps we can have an executive session discussion for before our next purchasing report and make a decision as to whether those two firms should be on our list.
Mr. Chair, do we have the ability to remove people from this list at this time? Mr. Keller, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, I would have to review the contract. This is for a renewal. I believe we would have the option not to renew it for certain firms. Again, these are on-call contracts. They may not have anything assigned to them at this point in time. They may. I believe Pierce Coleman does have an ongoing relationship where they were responding to a public records request on behalf of the election department, I believe. And as far as Coppersmith Brockelman, I believe they are also currently involved in an investigation of another matter, HR-related, if you will, performing some services there. So you'd have to take a look at the individual contracts and the work that they are currently assigned to. And then we can always have the ability to not use specific attorneys on that firm, and we don't use everyone in the firm is not qualified for everything that's on this list. So there's certain people that do practice in certain areas.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, these contracts are up for renewal beginning July 1st of 2024. We have another board meeting between now and then, so the entire item can be removed at this point in time, or those specific ones, if you would want to wait, and we could put it on the purchasing division report for June 19th.
19th?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion from anybody? Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you saying we could remove what would be item 2 under contract amendments?
Correct. You could remove the whole item or just those that are being discussed, and then we could bring those back in the next purchasing division report. It's how I'm just providing an option for you, sir.
Okay. Supervisor Surdy, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
No, I'm concerned about these issues as well. About we don't.
I guess the question I've got is how vetted are these individuals? I mean, obviously we go to the bathroom of one of them, but is there anything else that?
So the RFP process, what happens is we put together a scope of work. We have respondents respond to that scope of work. We have an evaluation team that evaluates the submissions by each of those. They score them and then choose which individuals have made the evaluation.
Okay.
And then we enter into negotiation and enter into a contract. These contracts, I believe, were entered into beginning July 1st of 2021. So this is the second renewal of these contracts.
Okay. Supervisor Miller, you had another question?
Yes, thank you. By chance, does anybody know how many attorneys are in the Coppersmith-Beckman firm? And same thing with Pierce Coleman? I mean, do they have 50, 60 attorneys? Do they have 5? Do they have 1?
I can answer.
Because you have personal experience. But look, may I have a...
You bet.
I mean, the fact that you've got more than one or two, I mean, one bad apple does not spoil the whole bunch, right? So you could have people that you disagree with. Certainly we have that same issue here. I don't see that.
That's my point. I mean,
I understand your point. Right. Yeah, how diluted is that issue? Correct.
Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you. First of all, in clarification, the toilet paper dispenser wasn't in the bathroom. It was on the wall behind the desk. Very prominent display.
All right. Okay.
And prior to Trump's conviction, obviously. And they do have lots of attorneys, but on the whole, Coppersmith, if we look at their work, on the whole, in fact, one of the attorneys said they typically don't take work for Republicans. That's what one of the attorneys told me. And then the second thing, with respect to Pierce, he's a small firm.
That's an interesting statement because there's 5 of us on the board right here that are Republicans.
Well, as individuals.
I'm saying that.
As individuals.
Yeah.
They typically don't take individual Republicans. So that's something we could look into. And then as far as Pierce Coleman, that's a fairly small firm. Pierce had represented me on an issue, and now is representing against me on an issue. So I think that may be a conflict we have to look at. And I would ask that both Coppersmith and Coleman be taken off and maybe looked at, and then we can put them on a schedule to approve later after some discussion and research.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd say, but we have ongoing issues with one of those firms. So,
Yeah, if I might, the current contract doesn't expire until June 30th, so we currently have an agreement with them. It would be to determine whether or not those agreements would be entered into
But to your
or
point,
extended.
if they're in the middle of a case, we're not going to switch horses.
correct.
I wouldn't think.
I mean, if I were to make a if I were to make a motion at this time, which I'm not yet, but I would just say to just remove RFP 220226 for further consideration, at a later date, whatever that happens to be. That would be a motion, but I'm not making one yet. I'm just saying that would be my suggestion, rather than single out. Just to understand the issue.
I think it's better if we took the whole item.
That's probably true, and we can readdress that on the 19th. I think you said, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then if there's any ongoing cases, they're still able to continue on in that for now. Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions regarding that? Okay.
Looking for a motion now?
We're ready to move.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one other question on the massive blue for the sheriff's office.
Oh, massive blue. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chief Thomas walks up, I was happy to see, that we are spending money in combating human trafficking, and I looked at the website for Massive Blue, and it's a one-pager with no additional information and no links. And I've kind of looked at the other businesses that these folks are involved in, and it includes Medical Weight Loss and Big Delicious Seasoning Company and so on, Boca Medical Weight Loss. And so with this particular, they produce software that we buy, and it does what? Can you explain that to us?
Chairman, Supervisor Kavanaugh, Matt Thomas, Sheriff's Office. I can't get into great detail because it's essentially trade secrets, and I don't want to tip our hand to the bad guys. But what I can tell you is the software is designed to help our investigators look for and find and build a case on human trafficking, drug trafficking, and gun trafficking is essentially our focus at this point. So the software is designed for our detectives to work in conjunction with the software to go after those bad guys specifically.
The real basic information I got is they use 50 AI bots, and I can't find that.
I guess we are going to put it out there.
Well, it's part of the agenda.
Okay.
So in the agenda, it talks about they use 50 AI bots, and I just wondered, has this been successful? Have you made apprehensions? Do you know?
Well, we got monies from the state in the form of a grant that $500,000 to spend on this specifically. And then as we moved forward with that, we wanted some proof of concept. And so we've been working with them so that they could take a look at our county specifically and work that problem and give us some results. And so while we have not made arrests yet because it's not fully in effect, we've just seen the proof of concept. And the proof of concept was good enough for us and our investigators to move forward with this. So now once this gets approved and we actually get them under contract, then we are going to move forward with prosecution of cases.
So the state has approved this. Is it used in other counties?
Well, I can't give you exacts, but I have one of their reps here that can give you everything you want to know about where they're currently being used. And
that'd be fantastic.
Former Border Patrol Chief, Chris Clem.
Well, it's still morning. Good morning. By way of background, my name is Chris Clem. I'm a retired Chief Patrol Agent, U.S. Border Patrol, 27 years. Last 18 months I retired. Massive Blue is the parent company. It is a very small startup. It's only been around for a little over a year. There's 10 full-time employees. There's 3 of us in Arizona. And so we are currently in negotiations with 3 counties here, to include Pinal County in Arizona. We're also working with the state of Texas and 2 public law enforcement agencies in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we are, doing all the things that this Overwatch can do. Again, Massive Blue is the company. Overwatch is the program, which is a law enforcement public safety program that basically identifies the landscape. The landscape has changed. It is unconventional. Everything is done online, and the threats are real. And as a resident of 14 years of Pinal County, I know what's happening here. And so to be able to use this program, it's a full service program. It's not a software per se. It is zero technical overhead. It is a managed program for the client, in this case, Pinal County, to provide all the necessary information they need to go on to go after the online exploitation of children, traffic victims, and all the other verticals that the sheriff may want to go after. So. But I answer any questions that I can.
So has it been successful elsewhere? Have you been able to gather data that led to arrests?
We have not made an arrest yet, but there is a current investigation right now regarding arson, and we have got the leads to the investigators. Again, we're really about 6 months of online going live. So investigations take time, but we've been able to generate the necessary leads for the particular counties that we're involved in, and also in the private sector.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussions in regards to any of this? Anybody on the purchasing report? Okay. Do I have a motion moving forward?
There we go. Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the purchasing division report without RFP 220226 to be continued, with that item to be continued to, I'm going to be told something else. To be continued to 6/19/24.
Yes, June 19, 2024. Yes.
Okay.
And I have a friendly amendment, which would be to include the Massive Blue contract for further study to that date as well.
Okay. So all we need with the amendment and everything is a second. Okay. Is there a second on the motion and the amendment?
Second.
You made the amendment.
Am I prohibited from seconding if I made a motion? Amendment? No.
No. Okay. Okay. So it's seconded. Okay. So all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it. So what that does is it takes in the motion made, and it excludes, it does the amendment as well, the part on the amendment, the blue.
Thank you, sir. I will bring both of those items back in the next purchasing division report.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 8, consent items. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a board member, county manager, or a mini member of the public objects at the time that the agenda item is called. So I have, by the request of Supervisor Surtee, item number AU. Do we still need to pull Y?
No.
I'll come to the public. Okay. Is there anybody else from the board that has any item that they'd like to have pulled? Okay. County manager? Anybody from the public? All right. Do we have a motion moving forward? So it's minus AUs all.
I can do that. Mr. Chair, I move we approve consent items A through AZ minus AU.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Mr. Surdy, item number AU.
Deputy Thomas just went out into the foyer. So I would have questions for him if he comes back. Or if we can fetch him back.
Matt, officer, can you see if chief deputy's out there?
He sits on the cat board with me. Oh.
Okay, Matt, Supervisor Surdy had some questions.
Yes, sorry. Matt Thomas, Pinal County Sheriff's Office Chief Deputy.
So regarding aircraft, and we have a huge state, a huge county, lots of areas that we can't reach. I understand the aircraft and aviation fuel, but I'm wondering to what extent do we employ drones, and can grants like this go for drone usage? No, I'm not talking the expensive drones that can fly hundreds of miles, but just to possibly keep our officers safe when I've mentioned before the massive 9 million acres of state land that we have to patrol, and we don't get reimbursed for it. This would be a way of getting some help from the state and DPS to take care of their land. For instance, you have a squatter encampment out in the state land, and we expect our deputies to just roll up on these. You don't know what they're going to encounter out there. Is it possible to send drones to just look at the camp, see what's going on there? Is it growing? Is it shrinking? Are they innocent campers or what? And what are your thoughts on that, and what are our future plans?
Okay. Chairman, Supervisor Surdy. So addressing this grant specifically, it's Stone Garden grants. So Stone Garden grants, typically the focus is we're under Border Patrol's control, essentially, in spending this money. And so it has to be focused on border-related issues. So kind of two separate issues. That's for this grant. But to your question for drones, the use of drones is becoming more and more prevalent, both with the sheriff's office, with the county attorney's office. And so, yes is the answer to your question. We can use drones for that. We do currently use drones. We use drones for shooting scenes for accidents. They'll get overhead pictures of everything. We'll get drones for forward deployment, like you're talking about, to get some intel shots of an area maybe we're going to serve a warrant, or if we have a crowd that we're dealing with. So same purpose, it can be used for that. And we are using more and more of them. We're certifying more and more pilots in the agency to have use of those. So ultimate answer, yes. This grant specifically probably can't be translated into that use, but we have other monies out there.
So on those drones, can they, in real time, can the officer see what the drone sees at that time?
Yes, that's one of our main tactical uses, is they deploy smaller drones to get forward look. So we don't have to send people in to look, or we don't have to send our dogs in to check. We can send a drone forward to see what it looks like, live view, and then our guys can follow behind that as it looks safe.
And I want to stress, I don't want to snoop into people's backyards, just like with our development service planning and zoning department. We can't look into people's yards and see they have violations and act on that. This would be more just totally on public land, these wide open expanses, mainly state land, which my district is dominated by, and there are ongoing problems without knowing what's out there. And
yes, sir.
Okay, so I don't know if this is worthy of a future item. We don't give direction to staff to the sheriff's department, but if you do need any future help with that, I think the board would be interested in the development of this for officer safety, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Chief Thomas, I have that question.
I'm in go mode.
No worries. So this pays for aviation fuel, and the uses for Stone Garden are tracked separately from the other uses of the aircraft. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The Stone Garden use is very specific. We have very specific reporting that we have to do to Stone Garden or to Border Patrol through Stone Garden on the aviation, the hours worked, the equipment used, all of that.
Okay, and that's public information.
Mhm.
And so if there's training exercises that you can spend fuel on related to that, is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And what are the aircraft that are used generally?
Generally, we have our Huey is the most active because it has the most equipment on it. And like this time of year, what we're looking at mainly for aviation use is rescues. So we have desert rescues. So Huey's the main one. And then we have an OH-58 that is second to that.
Okay. I think the OH-58 spent hours over Coolidge 3 weeks ago. I saw that one. And so, but the Stone Garden's principally used for border issues. You can see them on Flight Aware going to areas of the border.
Correct. If it's under a Stone Garden operation, then it'll be an operation approved essentially through the Border Patrol, so it has to fall within their parameters of operational authority for us to be out there and using those funds.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay. I guess I should stay this time.
I don't know. Any other questions? All right. We have a motion moving forward then.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve item AU as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, we are going to adjourn our regular
Recess.
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 Thank you.
You want to go home?
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to recess the Pinal County Board of Supervisors regular meeting, and we'll now open up our Pinal County Health Service District Board of Directors. So let's see here. We have the items that we have are 2 consent items. Is there any items that, item number 1, is there any items that anybody from the board would like to pull? County manager? Anybody from the public? Okay, seeing that there's none, let's, do we have a motion moving forward?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve consent items A through B as presented.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Now we're going to go back and we're going to close the Pinal County Board of Public Health Services, and now we'll reconvene our Pinal County Board of Supervisors regular meeting. Item number, we've already done 10. We were ahead of the game, man. Item number 11. This is a public hearing and discussion approval, disapproval of ordinance number 2024 PZ-05021. Who's here to speak on behalf of that? Oh, here we go. Valerie.
Chairman, just for the record, items number 11 and 12 will be heard together.
Okay. Did everybody get that? We're going to have both 11 and 12 presented and then heard together, and then we'll hold 2 separate public hearings will be all combined. 2 separate votes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Separate votes.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, county staff, and members of the audience. My name is Val Lujan. I'll be presenting on the cases PZ 05021 and PZPD 05021, which is referred to as the Bella Vista Storage Rezone with PAD. So just a synopsis of the case. The request is by iPlan Consulting, both as the applicant and agent. They're seeking approval of this rezone with a planned area development PAD to allow for the construction and operation of a self-storage facility, which will also include RV and boats. The parcel information is there for you. It's about 3.64 acres. Current zoning is general rural, and they're looking to move to neighborhood commercial, which is C1. Location, located at the southeast corner of East Skyline Drive and North Sierra Vista Drive in Santan Valley. The owner is Eldorado Bella Vista, LLC. We have their authorization on file. I believe they are available in person. Unfortunately, the agent applicant is not here in person today. So we're going to go through a few of the typical maps that you are provided with such cases. The first one shows the location of the project within the fuller context of the county. Some zoning context for you all, the full map that's provided to us, and then sort of zoomed in a bit. An area map shows some of the current development patterns out there. This is the notice area map, just shows the extent of our outreach as far as any of the notice of hearing requirements. And then providing you some photos at the site. So we're looking east onto the site, looking east at the intersection, and looking west below. Some more photos for you all, looking south and then looking north, and just showing that the larger yellow board and the smaller yellow signs were posted for this hearing. So the development plan that was provided by the applicant was forwarded to you in the BOS packet. Just kind of wanted to zoom in and provide some highlights of that. So the project itself will afford a perimeter wall, a front skyline. There's a central placement for the RVs and boats. There is a significant landscaping proposed around the project site, and we do find that there would be sufficient parking and loading areas in relation to the project type. So just wanted to recap on what occurred at the P&Z. So the commission did provide a favorable recommendation. Some of the questions that were raised, one of the commission members asked if there would be some type of different design elements as far as what the exterior and interior would look like. The applicant did provide the design for the outside exterior of the project. Of course, internally, those storage units would be of what we see for typical metal storage units. We also had a question regarding whether there would be any type of personnel overnight stay for the RVs. The applicant made it clear that no, this is strictly for storage purposes. Another commissioner had asked the developer in relation to these types of projects if they had had experience doing so. El Dorado has done some similar type projects and other larger commercial projects, and they did emphasize their priority is in quality. At the P&Z, we received one communication of concern. There was nothing further to forward to the Board of Supervisors. That communication at the point of the P&Z was in regard to a constituent expressing for an enhanced appearance, as this would be one of the first commercial aspects of the area. And so just ensuring that this project would set the standard for that community. And of course, staff engaged with this inquirer over the phone. Also, the applicant did provide landscape plans in excess of usually what is asked to be provided by applicants at this stage, and address some other design elements in the documents that they provided. And then regarding that concern, just to highlight what the buffers and landscaping details are. So they are affording 18% of open space. They got 25 feet wide buffers on the north and south end, 15 feet on the east and west, with the exception where just further up there's a 25 feet buffer because the frontage would be a two-story building. The side and rear are expected to have box trees for screening, and this is stipulated within the ordinance based off of the exhibits that were provided as their landscaping plans. Some items of consideration. So we do find that it is consistent to the comprehensive plan. There's no minor or major amendment that is required per the Santan Valley Area Plan. The land use designation is suburban neighborhood, and within suburban neighborhood, the requested zoning is compatible. The requested zoning of C1 neighborhood commercial is appropriate for the proposed use. It meets the intent of the zoning district, which limits commercial uses in close proximity to residential to meet more of a localized need. And there are residential districts in close proximity as well as commercial uses. The necessity for the PAD is a flexibility provision to allow some flexibility to specific development standards in which it accompanies a rezone. Not all those standards are changed. There are 3 specific ones of which the applicant is requesting and of which the county can support. So those adjusted standards are, instead of a 3-acre being allowed for this type of use, the proposed is 3.64. The density, the Florida area ratio, 0.35, which is currently permitted, would be raised to 0.83. And then currently only a one-story would be allowed, and we are allowing a two-story through this proposal. So again, we find that the proposal meets the intent of the Santan Valley Area Plan. It complements the existing surrounding area and suitable for future use projections as far as some of the adjacent commercial and some large residential projects that are going in to the east. The applicant has also submitted all the necessary documentation required of our processes. Of course, the staff did initiate commentary from all divisions within the county, and no adverse impacts were identified at this time. The applicant did provide a preliminary TIS and drainage, which is further stipulated in the ordinance and will be explored more thoroughly at the site plan review level. So at the P&Z, case PZ05021 did not have any stipulations, and that was at staff's mistake. We do ask that this one stipulation be put in place for PZ05120. And this is just a general stipulation declaring that any type of processes would need to be followed through upon. And this is, again, a general stipulation that you see for all cases. So we do ask that, we request that the board entertain this. For case PZPD 05021, at the P&Z, it had 16 stipulations. The request currently is to revise 2 and add 1. So I'll go through the one that would be that are going to be revised. So that first one is it's just taking out some of the language. It doesn't change any of the intent of the stipulations that were presented at P&Z and are now part of the ordinance. It just kind of clears things up a bit. So because they are two separate cases, it was wrong for us to write it in this way. They should be separated, considering that they would be two separate ordinances. For the second one, the development standards are only allowed to be changed through the PAD case. So again, having that PZ case in reference on that first line was incorrect. And then lastly, approval of the planned area development overlay district is contingent upon the Board of Supervisors zone change approval as set forth in the relating PZ case. And again, that was just something that was not in there, but is required to be so because the PAD case is reliant on the zoning case going through. And so with that, I can entertain any questions if the board has any.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Does the applicant have anything that they're not here?
Do you
Okay.
mind, maybe the owner? Here? Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Supervisors. My name is Brandon Samwick with Eldorado Bella Vista. Thank you to Val for the presentation. I have nothing further to add, but I'm here to answer questions if need be.
Okay. I don't think there is.
Thank you.
Stand by. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing for both items. Is there anybody here from the public that wishes to come forward and have any concerns or anything? Okay, seeing that there's none, I'll close the public hearing. I will make one comment in regards to this. This is a particular project that has been, for me, seeing our development of homes and everything else in these areas actually taken an initiative, a forward-thinking initiative for storage units. I mean, we get so many complaints in so many of our neighborhoods where the motorhomes are parked on the streets. People's garbage is not taken care of. One man's junk is another man's haven, right? But this allows them to have a good, clean place that they can take in storage. So, and I commend Eldorado for taking the initiative to do something like this. So, seeing what's coming down in the future, they're already building homes there. It's crazy what's going on in that general area. So, anyway, that's my sidekick on that. So, since there's no other discussion or anything else, what's the motion moving forward?
Mr.
Item
Chair.
number 11.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I move that we approve item 11 as presented.
We have a...
Excuse me, Chairman.
With one stipulation. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 12, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve item 12 as presented with 17 stipulations.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Lujan, by the way, thank you for your presentation. That was very thorough. That was nice. Thank you.
Thank you to El Dorado for being here. Okay. Item number 12. This is a public hearing and discussion disapproval of ordinance number 2024-BZ-052-23.
12 or 13.
Hmm?
Which one were we on?
Item 13.
13.
Did I say 15?
No, you said 12.
Item 13.
Yes.
Let's correct that. I got the number right though, right? I mean, okay. Patrick.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. My name is Patrick Roberts, Senior Planner. I'm going to be discussing case PZ 05223 for the AFIDA Industrial Complex. So this is a proposal by Dan Carlos Sr. from Coronado Development, LLC, representing AFIDA AZ Land Partners as the landowner for rezoning of 22 acres from GR General Rural to I3 Industrial Zoning District. The property is located off of east of North Bianco Road and south of West Cowtown Road in vicinity to Casa Grande in unincorporated Pinal County. And we also have David McGuire representing from Land Solutions, Inc. This is a map showing the approximate location of the property in question. A vicinity map showing the surrounding zonings. Surrounded on pretty much all sides except the southwest corner by Casa Grande. An aerial map of the property. And a map indicating the zoning change proposal. The current comprehensive plan designation for the property is employment, which correlates with the I3 designation that's being proposed. And this is a conceptual site plan the applicant has provided indicating a possible layout for the industrial uses within the site with access to the west off of North Bianco Road. The applicants provide an ALTA survey indicating access to the property. This is an image looking north from the property, south, east, and west.
What's it?
So summarized for consideration, the submitted application for this land use request are for an approval of a rezoning for industrial development. If the applications are approved, the subject property will be rezoned from GR to I3. The property has legal access and a functional preliminary circulation plan. The property fronts the Union Pacific Railroad and has access to Maricopa Casa Grande Highway through Bianco Road. And the current Pinal County Comprehensive Plan designation is for employment, compatible with the proposed zone change. The project lies in Flood Zone A, and to date, staff has received no letters of opposition or support. At the April 18th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval on a vote of 10-0 with 10 stipulations. And those stipulations are listed if there are any questions regarding them. At this point, does the board have any questions of staff?
Anybody? Nope.
The applicant's available to answer any questions as well.
Okay. The applicant's here. Would you like to have anything that you would like to add to it?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Dave McGuire here on behalf of the owner who is also here, Dan Carlos. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. And I don't think we have any, do we? Okay. Thank you. All right. This is a public hearing, so I'll open up the public hearing and allow anybody from the public to come and speak in regards to this particular project. Is there anybody from the public? Not everybody's jumping up, so with that, I'll close the public hearing. Board, what do you want to do moving forward?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 13 as presented with 10 stipulations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Unanimous.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Item number 14, public hearing and discussion approval, disapproval of resolution number 2024 IUP 00422. And it looks like we have Valerie again. You're up.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, county staff, and members of the audience. My name is Val Lujan, and I'm here to present on case IUP 00422, referred to as Rolling Plains Construction Industrial Use Permit. So just a brief of that case. It is a request by Pinal PLC as the applicant and agent, and they're seeking approval of an industrial use permit for the continued operation of an already established materials processing and treatment facility. Site information altogether, it's about 26.19 acres and is made up of 7 parcels. We provide you the general location there, located north of West Guadalupe Road between South Warner Road and South Pinal Drive in an unincorporated area of AJ. The owner is Shippey's Properties, LLC. We do have their authorization on file. Pinal PLC is the agent and applicant, who I believe is here in person. Again, just to go through some of the maps that are provided to you all for visuals. This is the county map, shows where the project is located in the context of the county. Some zoning for you of the full area, and then zoomed into that more immediate area. The area map shows some of the development patterns that are currently out there. The notice area map just shows the extent of our notice efforts to the public with the 600-foot buffer. Again, considering the acreage, we didn't necessarily get directionals provided to you, as you've seen in some of the other cases, but just some photos that were captured around the site. Some of the site history, so the current zoning for all parcels involved is CI2, which is industrial zone, and that was afforded to those parcels through case PZC 043 and 81. So it's a long existing industrial site, even prior to the county introducing a site plan review process. The way that this came about for an IUP is that these folks had introduced a new parcel for a laydown yard, which resulted in a now dismissed code compliance case due to them having to come into compliance as far as requiring an IUP and going through the site plan review process. And that case was dismissed because the applicant has shown in good faith to be taking the appropriate steps to get that rectified. Also, it's worth noting that they do have an approved site plan in 2020 for a significant area of the fuller project scope. So this engineer site plan is provided to you. I know it's a bit convoluted, but still wanted to put it in the presentation as it was something that was provided by the applicant. Some of the highlights from that engineer site plan is that it does show that the site is inaccessible to the general public. Parking is afforded in 4 paved parking areas. We find that it has adequate gate and fencing across the site as a vehicular and pedestrian safety measure. Some of the fire protections are 1,500-gallon water truck on site at all times, extinguishers at building entrances and across the site, and office buildings do have an auto sprinkler system. Again, just to provide you some more details that aren't as complex as that engineered site plan. So the overall operations is for fireproofing of materials. In Area 1, in that green-yellow color, it houses the main office, some staff break rooms, and a parking area, site equipment for repair and storage, and prep and coating of materials. In Area 2, in orange, is where the laydown yard is currently at. Also for material drop-off, staging, and storage. Area 3, there's no buildings currently, it just has a shade structure, and the area is used for additional storage as needed. The parcel 4, area 4 up top in purple, has office space, warehouse, equipment repair, and part storage, and some additional parking. And it is the main area right at the center 4 and 1 that have that SPR already approved, and it's parcel 2 that is currently, will be going through the SPR process with the county. So just to recap from the P&Z, we didn't have any additional discussion or questions that were raised by the commission. Staff did receive one communication at the time of the P&Z. We don't have anything further for the BOS. That concern was for adequate fire measures, resources, and access. So some of those measures I already previously mentioned. Site is accessible from Desert View Drive, Warner Drive, and Pinal Drive. Access gates are 32 to 40 feet wide. Drive aisles within the site are sufficiently paved with 24 feet wide and adequate turning radii. And then outside of that, when that concern was raised at the P&Z level, the applicant did take it upon themselves to provide a separate site plan addressing some of these fire and emergency circulation and concerns, which the P&Z did find sufficient. Also, a stipulation is provided regarding this, and at the SPR level, a fire signature is required for approval. Overall, the commission did provide a favorable recommendation. Some items of consideration is that it is established, it's a permitted use within that zoning district, conforms to the land use designation of employment. The applicant did submit all necessary documentation that the county requires of an IUP and has worked with staff to resolve that code compliance issue. The applicant has begun the site plan review process for the addition, and as I've stated before, has a approved site plan for a significant portion of that project site. For industrial use permits, one of the main considerations that staff looks at is the impact on quality of life. So we didn't identify any incompatible uses within the immediate area. We find that the site was centrally located and is surrounded by other industrial uses. Impacts that are typical of this type of project would include noise, lighting, some other environmental health implications have all been stipulated for continued compliance. And so with that, we consider the risk to quality of life to be considered low. Again, as with all cases, we reach out to our county divisions who did not identify any adverse impacts. They provided a preliminary TIS and drainage report, which will be further explored at the SPR and is stipulated in the resolution, as well as these folks do have an air quality permit on file. With that, I'll take any questions from the board.
Supervisor Sturdy.
Yeah, I generally like projects like this that make employment and keep us going forward, but I have some questions for the general area. I see Celeste and Joe and Chris out there just for the flow of this area. And is there going to be something punched through eventually to connect with Meridian, and what is the future development of Meridian? I know Supervisor Goodman's dream is to have Meridian go the whole way, and this is one of the areas where we have a landlocked county island there, and it would make the whole area safer and flow better.
I'll defer to some other staff.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Supervisor Surdy. The MAG has begun a study of the Meridian Road corridor. So in June, they're going to start looking at Meridian Road and its access to the south from SR 24 all the way up to US 60. That connection would provide another alternative for that Houston Industrial Park area where this site's located.
But as of right now, Guadalupe does not even connect, does it?
Guadalupe connects to Ironwood to the east, but eventually it will connect to Meridian to the west.
Which is what I'm asking, is to connect to Meridian, because I know a lot of the business owners in there, they want to connect and they want another way out of there, as does the fire department.
Yeah, this would provide that opportunity. Meridian.
So you're saying within the next couple years?
A study will be done to determine funding, resources, all those things. But it'll look at, will it be 5 lanes? Will it be 7 lanes? Will it be a future parkway section? So it's gonna paint the picture for Mesa, the City of AJ, Pinal County, Maricopa County. There's several agencies involved in that section.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help? I think with all those different agencies that are involved,
Yeah.
and it's going to affect all of them, I think we're going to see a lot better cooperation between all those agencies than what we've seen on the south side of the 24. I think we're going to see a lot of participation on the north side that's going to really probably help escalate this even more so. Just like the 24, when we punched the meridian through, that escalated it up by 4 years, and I think that's what we're going to see here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Do you want to speak to this? This guy's running shoes on.
I need to. Sean Lake here on behalf of Rolling Plains, the current operator of this fire protection service facility that they employ quite a bit of people in there, and they actually run a very nice, clean business. They're right in the center of this industrial park. We think this is a good use. We think we're just cleaning up some things as far as the IUP and some site plan and working with staff on that, so we would urge your support of this, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. I have heard that they are working on the Meridian Road because it's like 1.5 mile stretch where it ends to connect to US 60. And so I've heard of several jurisdictions that are working on that along that west
And it helps the city of Apache Junction as well.
Helps AJ, helps Queen Creek, helps Mesa, helps everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we
Mike-
didn't bring in AJ, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open this up for public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak in regards to this particular item? Seeing that there's none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion moving forward.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve item 14 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yes.
10 stipulations.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I move that we approve item 14 with 10 stipulations.
Can we re-second that?
Second.
We've got two of them. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And it's passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move forward to item number 15. Discussion, approval, disapproval of a purchase and sales agreement between Pinal County and a political subdivision of the state of Arizona, Randolph United Council. Celeste.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. Celeste Garza with the Development Services Department. Staff is recommending that we withdraw item 15 from the agenda. We've been working over the last couple of days modifying the purchase agreement with amendments to their process of the site plan. They're working through our Development Services Department community development to get the community center designed and meeting all the ordinances and codes and everything. So we need to make some modifications to the sales agreement, and so we'd like to pull it and bring it back to you at a future agenda.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, do we have a motion moving forward then?
Is that table? Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to table item number 15.
If we can withdraw, that motion needs to be withdrawn.
Withdrawn?
Yes.
I make a motion to withdraw item number 15.
We have a motion to withdraw. Do we have a second?
I will second Supervisor Miller's motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's withdrawn. Okay. Item number 16. Discussion, approval, disapproval of Pinal County tentative budget for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. I know. We always look forward to this year, right?
I hope so. Chairman Goodman, members of the board, Angie Woods, Director of the Office of Budget and Finance. I'm here today to present a tentative budget for our fiscal year 24-25. Before I get into the presentation, I do want to take some time to recognize the hard work of both my staff and departmental staff. This is as you all know, this is a several-month-long process that takes a lot of meeting, a lot of cooperation, discussion, questions, and I find it interesting that we can come together countywide as a group to present a tentative budget to you, and it's all due to the hard work of our staff. So I want to recognize them. It's also recognizing you setting clear policy on how we move forward with a tentative budget. So with that, you're included in that. Thank you. If you don't mind, I will just jump right in to the presentation. So this year, we had some really specific budget priorities, and listed here on the screen: financial strength and stewardship. We were focused on the primary and secondary property tax rates. We have our strategic goal for a structurally balanced budget. We wanted to focus on total compensation, include any departmental ongoing requests, making sure that they're not exceeding ongoing revenues. We also want to utilize revenues that we've considered as one-time to fund one-time expenditures, and the ever-growing infrastructure investment that has been happening throughout the last few fiscal years. As far as financial strength and stewardship, I want to commend you all on your strategic priority of financial strength and stewardship, because it allows us to steward taxpayer funds efficiently, to minimize the burden on our taxpayers, and create a competitive community business environment. And throughout this presentation, there's going to be several ways that I'm going to be able to show you how that priority is really through and through this budget. First, I really just wanted to quickly touch on economic indicators. We keep an eye on these in my office. It tells us where our economy is and where things might be going in the future. Some statistics that I have for you: unemployment, national employment, and I apologize, this was pulled in the last probably week or so might not be today's number. National unemployment, 3.9%. Arizona state unemployment, 3.6%. Pinal County, 2.9%. Jobs, nationally, in April, jobs were 175,000 jobs, down from the previous 12-month average of 242,000 jobs. State, we're seeing 2% growth in jobs. The data that we saw, there were 64,600 jobs added to the state. And in the Phoenix MSA, there were 50,700 jobs, which that means 78.5% of the state jobs were in the Phoenix MSA, which we are included in. That's a huge positive thing for us. U.S. GDP grew at an annual rate of 1.6% in the first quarter of 2024, after increasing 3.4% in the fourth quarter of 2023. Inflation as of May 15th of 2024, U.S. inflation was 3.4% for the 12 months period, in comparison to a 4.93% a year ago. National average hourly earnings increased 0.5% from the prior year, April of 2023. Consumer prices are 3.4% higher in April of 2024 compared to April of 2023. So these are all indicators that we keep an eye on and have used to help make some decisions on where our forecast is going, and so just wanted to share those with you. So as I typically do, I like to look at big picture and go down to more of the detail. So our budget for 24-25, distribution of all the funds. You can see here 25% to justice system and law enforcement, 41% to public infrastructure, 22% to general government, 8% to health, and the other two categories are kind of low. In comparison, we're seeing changes between last year and this year. Major changes are in the public infrastructure piece. Really, we had, as you all know, we had ARPA funding that we've distributed and started some projects. So as that funding depletes, that public infrastructure is going to deplete as well. But that's not to say that we didn't add some new public infrastructure projects into this budget, just not to the same level as what those ARPA funds were. As far as total revenues, 23% is made up of primary property tax or property taxes in general, 25% state and federal grants, large percentage of excise tax, both state shared and county excise tax make up another 23%, miscellaneous 7%. And then you can see that we have, those other categories as far as HERF, vehicle license tax, some of our intergovernmental, in comparison to the previous year, all pretty much similar percentages of the total revenues here. Let's talk quickly about the library district. So we have worked with the library district throughout the fiscal year, keeping a tab on what is going on, how they're spending their funds, forecasting out several years. The current budget is based upon a truth in taxation rate, which means there's no increase in the existing levy. However, there is an increase in the levy for new construction. So they will receive more money, even though but it's attributed to the growth that has happened. Which is also saying that growth, we're seeing economies of scale to do services as population grows, valuation grows. It's paying for the growth itself instead of an increased rate or increased levy. The third lowest property tax rate of all counties with library districts, second lowest levy per capita. The lowest is Maricopa County. And there again, that's economy of scale. Our flood control district, the rate for this tentative budget, we've built in the same rate, which is an increase of $597,000 in the levy. That's due to the multitude of projects that they have in their 5-year plan. The department has said that in the next 5 years, they have 37 projects, estimated cost of $40 million to lower to property tax, lower that rate. They would not be able to fund these projects. Beyond that 5 years, they're anticipating 18 additional projects with estimated costs of $85 million. So we don't have enough money to do the projects that we currently have. To decrease that rate would make those projects continue to be pushed out into future fiscal years. So story here is the current property tax levy is needed to ensure we have adequate funding.
And to that point, we talked about Meridian Road, and there's going to be a lot of flood issues around that area as we move forward as well. So there is a lot of areas that we need to mitigate on and address the flooding issues. So thank you.
You're welcome. General fund revenue budget. So we're getting down to some of the detail, right? Primary property tax at 43%, intergovernmental 31%, county sales tax 14%. That intergovernmental includes the VLT and the state shared excise tax. So those two combined, in the intergovernmental, that's the major piece is the state shared. The other percentage there, smaller charges for service. Most of that is I would want to say that is mostly things that we're doing to provide services to either the public or other entities. License and permits, most of that is our development-related revenues. I was curious. I looked at this particular pie chart from 10 years ago because I was curious to see if I could prove that we're becoming less reliant on property tax. 10 years ago, this pie chart, the primary property tax was 47% of the total revenue for the general fund. So we are seeing a decrease there. County sales tax 10 years ago was 11%. That state shared and VLT was 29%. So as those excise taxes, the amount that we're receiving for those increase, our primary property tax percentage is decreasing. In comparison to last year, all of the percentages of this pie chart are pretty much the same. You've seen this property tax dollar in the past. We typically bring this to you in our levy and rate adoption. It's just really a reminder that our property tax is a bigger, it's a piece of a bigger puzzle. We have cities and towns that are levying property tax, school districts, obviously, our junior college, and then there's special districts out there. The county's primary property valuation grew 11.27% this year, and it was split between new construction and existing valuations. I have some notes here. It's interesting, what this tells us is 1 cent of our primary property tax rate is essentially about $377,000. So every cent you decrease it, we're decreasing that amount of money. Our current rate that we have for fiscal year 23-24 is $356. We've built this budget based upon $345. So with that being said, at $345, $6.5 million is attributed to new construction. $3 million of the increase is attributed to existing valuation. So there again, we're seeing that the growth is beginning to pay for new services. This is always an interesting slide.
Supervisor Miller.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that back slide, sure. The new construction, is that still the lag time? There's like 24 months before, the C of O on a house really actually shows up on the tax rolls?
A great question, as always, Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Miller. Yes, so there is a lag time. As something gets built, the assessment happens, and then it comes on to the tax roll. It's usually somewhere between 18 to 24 months, just depending on where we are in the calendar year and where things are in assessment.
To my point, though, if we start seeing a turn down, we won't see that turn down for 24 months. That would be 2 budget cycles from now, in a sense.
In a sense, in the property tax, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Or
just something we have to be aware of. Because it is such a delayed reaction, I think we lose sight of that from time to time.
That's a great point, Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Miller. My team is, they meet with our development services, especially the community development department or division of development services quite frequently. And one of the topics that we discuss with them is the number of permits that are being issued, how that's going. We're constantly watching that to see what that trend is doing, so that we keep an eye on where we're going to start to see that decline.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor
to
McClure.
Supervisor Miller's point, you wouldn't see a turn down for at least 2 years because it's going to trail up, and even then it would, we'd see it happening ahead of time, but to her point, we'd see it happening, but in the valuation in the budget, it would still be climbing.
It'd be a delayed reaction.
An odd delayed reaction, but according to Mr. Billingsley's reports, we just see the permits going up and up and up and up, and they just keep going like crazy.
Well, but I do know that not everywhere. I know the city of Casa Grande sees their permits going down.
Well, they ran out of room. They ran out of room.
They ain't running out of room. They're running out of sales. and then I guess the build to rent kind of thing, I don't know how that really works into this equation. But nevertheless, it's something that we should always be mindful of.
Try to look at, for the future. Okay.
And to your point, sir, we do look at that. And as we're becoming less reliant on property tax, we also keep a really heavy eye on those excise taxes as well. But, that's what my office is supposed to be doing. Like I said, this chart is always an interesting chart. The bars are representative of the maximum allowable primary property tax rate or property tax levy that by statute the board is allowed to levy. You can see it's a stair step, right? It's really 2% increase every single year, which is, I think, the thought process when that legislation went into effect was to keep up with inflation. So back in, I want to say 10, 11, we were at that max levy. If we had continued to increase the levy by 2% or what they thought at the time was inflation, if we had continued on that pathway, we would be taxing the $201,832,244. What we've chosen to do, however, is that red line, the levied primary property taxes. So we've, by strategic goal, have kept an eye on that. One of the goals there has been to reduce the property tax burden on our constituents. So in 10-11, I went back and pulled this data. 10-11, we were the second highest property tax burden per capita for our citizens in the state. Last year, we were the 10th highest, so almost the complete opposite. So went from the worst to one of the better. In 2010-11, the income per capita was $24,594. The income per capita last year was $43,793. So there again, your strategic priorities are we're really beginning or have been seeing the effects of those in both the rate and the burden of what we're doing for our taxpayers. So in this year, as you can see, that difference between what we're levying at $3.45 and the max, that's about $72 million that you could levy higher. As I said, the tentative budget is built on lowering the tax rate by 11 cents, so down to $3.45. Any questions here? I do have one other thought, and what I did is I looked up what cumulative inflation looks like from the start of this chart in 11-12 to today. Cumulative inflation is 66% between those two time periods. If we had stayed with inflation, our levy would be at $143 million instead of the $130 million if we had stayed with the inflationary rate over the years. That makes sense? So we're doing a fabulous job for our taxpayers.
Excuse me, just a quick question, Mr. Chair. So just for reference, no, I guess I don't have a question at the moment. Never mind.
Okay. Erase.
Please stop me if you do. Thank you. As I said, we keep an eye also on our excise tax revenue, and this chart goes back to 2020 to what we're projecting our excise tax revenues for the general fund to be in 2024. That green-blue is our VLT, and you can see it hasn't grown much over the last several years. That's due to supply and demand, cost of vehicles, all kinds of things. The peaches peach or oranges color is our county excise tax. As you can see, it's grown significantly since 2020. And then the other dark blue or dark black color is our state shared excise tax. And we're seeing that to begin to pull back on the trend. You can see the gaps back to 2020. If you look between 2020 and 2021, kind of a large gap, 21, 22, large gap, but that gap is shrinking. So we're seeing excise taxes slow in comparison to previous years. County excise tax is currently trending at 9.5%. State shared excise tax is trending at 5.4%. In previous years, it was in the 20% range. That's why I said we're seeing that slowing there. And vehicle license tax is currently trending at 6%, which in past years, it's been relatively flat. So it'll be interesting to see what that impact is in the future years. Just another look at this chart, the previous data for county sales tax in a different way. I just wanted to bring attention to what pieces, so what categories of our county excise sales tax are. So if you look at the gray, the orange, and the blue, those are the major, makes up more than half of our excise tax. That's contracting, retail, and online remote retail. So when we start to see impacts or decreases there, that's when, as Supervisor Miller stated, we're going to need to pivot and make some other adjustments. Okay. I threw this slide in here because it was interesting to me. So this is the county sales tax per capita. So how much money per population are people spending in county excise tax? So there's a kind of a nexus here. Between fiscal year 20 and 21, we brought on online retail. We began to receive excise tax online sales. And that had an impact between 20, 21, and 22. Between 22 and 23, there's also a large jump there. We saw steep increases in construction and retail. So as those may be slowing, we will see those drop back off slightly. I don't necessarily know how far back we'll go, but it just represents how much per person we're actually receiving on an annual basis.
And just a quick, so that's per capita. So as our population increases and this increase, that's quite a bit of sales tax revenue. As you said, is climbing. So
correct. And one thing to note here is in 2024, we projected that sales tax increase, and we also projected, based upon data that's out there, what our population growth would be as well.
Supervisor Miller.
Mr. Chairman, Angie, what percentage of this sales tax is construction sales tax? Did you have a slide that showed that?
I sure do.
I thought you did.
It is, right here. So construction is in that contracting. So it's about 20% of the total.
That looks pretty steady all the way across there. I mean,
20%. That's that gray category.
dropped in November, dropped in January. Okay. It's about a 20%.
Yeah, 20% of the total, yes.
How do we get the online? Does that come through the state or does that come to us directly?
Supervisor Goodman, or Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Surdy, all of these excise taxes are reported and collected by the state, and they are distributed to the county through the Department of Revenue. Did that answer your question?
He's trying to decide.
He's trying to decide if that answered his
Did you ask me a question?
Asked if that answers your question. Okay. So the next slide is, so we're getting kind of down into how we're going to spend this money, right? And it's pretty much the same as last year, 20%, 26% for our sheriff's office, 34% for general government, 15% courts, 14% legal, 9% health.
Actually, I do want to go back to that. There's a lot of confusion because people that do sell online, so let's pick a state, Montana or Minnesota, if someone buys something from a vendor here, the tax stays here. If one of our residents buys something from an online vendor in Minnesota, the tax stays in Minnesota, correct?
No.
Chairman Goodman, Supervisor Surdy, that is not correct.
That's a nexus issue.
That comes here. It would be that online retailer should be collecting the rate of tax for
So the people in Minnesota get the tax that they spend here.
Correct. If it's online, correct. If we have an online retailer that's located here and Minnesota, somebody in Minnesota is paying their sales tax, that goes to Minnesota. That's
okay.
So distribution, like I said, distribution of our funding is very, very similar to last year. So here, this is another kind of improvements funded with savings from our board strategies and organizational performance. So more kudos to the board and our departments being able to fund, and I'm not going to talk about each of these projects, but we have significant projects in facilities, technology, and fleet. And it's all due to being able to spend those one-time revenues on these projects. These are the projects that we're planning to spend one-time monies on. So leads me to our forecast. So I have up here the unaudited actuals for fiscal year 22-23. As you can see, we ending fund balance was just over almost $100 million, which was about 39% of ongoing outflows. And the increase in revenue this year that we're projecting is 6.7%. With that, our projections for personnel, non-personnel expenditures, transfers out, we're expecting to spend $257 million of those revenues, which means we are still balanced budget. We're actually we're anticipating putting $32 million towards one-time projects in the current fiscal year. And then leaving us with an ending fund balance of $86.1 million. So about a 33% reserve as ongoing outflows. So the column next to that is the 24-25 projection based upon a $3.45 tax rate. With that, we're anticipating about a 5% increase in ongoing revenues. And we have, and you've seen many of the departmental requests that have come forward Those requests total about $23.1 million. I do have some representation. I sent you all budget request documentation. If you have any questions regarding those request forms, please let me know. One of the things that we have done in the last several years is have an agenda item specific to your district budgets. I have not yet put an agenda item together for that for this year. I wanted to ask you, since there's no new additions to any of the 5 districts, we've included the budgets as they were, but I wanted to find out from the board if you wanted a future agenda item to look at the the adjusted baseline and where each of your districts are in that adjusted baseline.
Did you get what she's asking?
No.
Yeah.
That's
Say
what
yes.
Okay, so at this point, they've been built in with an adjusted baseline. And what I'm hearing is you don't want to see another agenda because everything is the same as it was last year.
We've seen the items with all the other paperwork.
Sure. Perfect.
And there's no increases, right?
No, everything is exactly the same as it was last year.
Okay.
Okay. Granted, there are some board-approved pay increases that have happened, those types of things, but they're all things that you have already seen, so nothing new is being added there. So just wanted to be sure I was following what you all wanted me to do. Any questions on our forecast here? Okay. Well, that brings us to our total budget for fiscal year 24-25 is $1,115,788,702. This is setting a ceiling. After this budget has been approved, we can reduce or reallocate those monies, but we cannot increase that dollar amount. As this chart shows, the breakdown is 38% special revenue, 41% general fund, and 17% capital projects, 1% enterprise, and 3% for debt service. The changes are primarily in the special revenue went down, and general fund went up by 1%, and capital projects went up, mainly due to, like I said before, ARPA projects going down and infrastructure projects going up. So next, after hopefully you approve our tentative budget for today, our next steps would be to hold a public hearing on July 3rd, 2024 for a truth in taxation hearing. We're required by ARS 42-17107 that we post this truth in taxation hearing in the paper. Our TNT rate for the general fund is $3.2558. This budget, again, is being built on a rate of $3.45. And so on the 3rd, we'll hold that truth in taxation hearing. We'll be posting the notices. It's included in our budget schedules. It'll be posted online, and just to notify the public of what we're doing this fiscal year. With that, are there any other questions?
Anybody have any questions? Supervisor Miller.
The previous slide, what is our enterprise funds? What do we?
Our enterprise.
Not very much, but
so that
just
would
an
be
example.
So we have 2 enterprise funds in the county. One is our airport, and the other one is our canteen for our sheriff's office.
Oh, Okay.
So they operate more business-type activities versus.
Just couldn't remember what they were. Thank you.
Great question.
Chairman, so Ms. Woods, our TNT rate would be 322.58, and we're going to 345.
Correct.
Yes, and so that's less than the inflation rate. Is that not true? Is that correct?
That is absolutely true.
So,
You're talking about the 3.45.
so our increase in the TNT is less than the inflation rate. So we're actually beating the inflation rate rather than following the inflation line.
What is our current rate right now?
Our current rate is $3.56. So it's 11-cent decrease.
Over 4 years, we've lowered it 30 cents.
Yeah.
And so, due to growth.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Kavanaugh.
To clarify, I heard you say our current rate is 3.2558. Is that right?
That is not correct.
Okay, I didn't think
Supervisor, Chairman Goodman.
56, okay.
Yes.
$3.56 is the current rate. The budget is built on a rate of $3.45, which is 11-cent decrease. The truth and taxation rate is $3.2558. So 326 if you want to round up.
We've got a few more pennies to go. Okay.
So each year we get pummeled because the truth in taxation statements, because we're over that 3.2558. But the fact of the matter is, again, we're going to, if we approve this, lower the tax rate.
From what it is now?
Yes.
Correct.
Just for all you enterprising young newspaper reporters out there.
I just want to say thank you for all your hard work and all the four of you.
We have a great
The
staff.
team in the back, second row from the back there, thank you.
Well, I'm very proud of my team, and I'm very proud of the relationships that they've built with our departments, because the collaboration there is beyond what I ever imagined it would be. So.
Well, we commend you for that. Okay. Any other questions or anything? Doesn't look like it. All right. Go ahead.
Trying. Mr. Chair, I move we approve item 16 as presented.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Whew. Item number 17. Discussion of board members' requests for future agenda items and or reports to be presented at upcoming meetings. Anybody on the board would like to see anything added? Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. I'd like a discussion of how the statutorily required duties of the Board of Supervisors is being met within the current elections processes with respect to our elections department. And number two, a discussion of Sheets versus El Dorado County that has recently come from the United States Supreme Court. I know that it's been mentioned between our development department and county attorney, but I'd like to see that on the table in a public discussion and how it impacts our fees here. And then an analysis of non-citizen, duplicate, fraudulent, and incorrect addresses on Pinal County voter registration rolls. I'd like to see a report on that.
Okay. Any others? Okay. You got it? Brother Chris? All right. Okay.
The item that concerns me.
Okay. All right. Well, being that that's it, we are now adjourned. Okay. Elvis has left the building, right?